The ultimate hip-hop chess match just turned into an absolute boardroom execution. Papoose thought he was still standing on the board, protecting his queen and playing the role of the ultimate unbothered executive. But 50 Cent just stepped into the arena, dropped a midnight tactical nuke on Instagram, and completely exposed the fact that the game was over before Papoose even sat down. We aren't talking about a simple petty caption or a standard internet troll here. 50 Cent just pulled back the curtain and laid bare the brutal, cold-blooded reality of Remy Ma's new mainstream industry moves, leaving Papoose looking like a man holding a ticket to a flight that crashed months ago. The streets are losing their absolute minds because the entire cultural energy shifted the exact second 50 Cent weaponized what appears to be leaked corporate strategy papers. The illusion of hip-hop's ultimate, unbreakable independent power couple is officially dead and buried beneath a mountain of legal fine print. For nearly 2 decades, the culture looked at Papoose and Remy Ma as the literal definition of unconditional loyalty, surviving a 6-year federal prison bid and industry blackballing. But 50 Cent didn't just stumble across this. Street commentary is screaming that this was a highly coordinated, strategically timed corporate hit. The fine print of these leaked documents allegedly contains an aggressive third-party restriction that forces Remy Ma to legally guarantee her husband has zero financial oversight or legal claim to her new multi-million-dollar global lifestyle deals. The corporate gatekeepers built a legal force field around Remy's new money, and they explicitly left Papoose standing on the outside looking straight at a closed door. Was Papoose ever really in control, or was he just the last person to find out he'd been legally and culturally evicted from the room? The corporate restructuring of Remy Ma's brand identity, and the subsequent legal eviction of Papoose from her financial ecosystem, marks a devastating turning point that has completely forced the hip-hop community to reevaluate the true price of mainstream success. Following 50 Cent's highly calculated midnight contract leak, the narrative shifted from a simple case of internet trolling into a deep, philosophical autopsy of modern hip-hop marriages. The leaked documents pulled back the curtain on a brutal corporate pipeline where high-level executives routinely treat foundational street loyalty as a toxic operational liability. Industry insiders have spent weeks confirming the cold, mechanical reality behind the scenes. Major media conglomerates and global lifestyle brands are no longer willing to cut multi-million-dollar checks to legacy artists whose business affairs are managed by overprotective, street-vouched partners. To fully comprehend the depth of this betrayal, one must analyze the massive power dynamics that shifted the moment Remy Ma sought to elevate her brand into the highest tiers of global entertainment and high-fashion spaces. According to deep industry whispers, a consortium of midtown corporate sponsors and distribution powerhouses presented Remy with an absolute, unyielding ultimatum regarding her professional infrastructure. The corporate boardroom made it explicitly clear that they would not sit at a negotiation table where Papoose was holding the management pen or auditing the back-end revenue. They viewed his intense, hands-on protective nature not as a marital asset, but as an unpredictable variable that could not be controlled by standard human resources metrics or corporate legal frameworks. Remy was forced into a devastating choice: remain a respected, independent street legend grinding out local club walkthroughs with her husband, or sign a clean slate, multi-tiered corporate alliance on the strict condition that Papoose was entirely scrubbed from the intellectual property paperwork. The legal mechanism used to execute this professional eviction relies on what contract experts call an aggressive third-party intervention restriction. This highly sterile, redacted clause explicitly prohibits joint marital assets, family-owned management companies, or sentimental legacy partners from exercising any financial oversight, operational veto power, or creative control over Remy Ma's newly formed corporate entity. In plain English, the corporate gatekeepers engineered a bulletproof legal force field around her new wealth pipeline, effectively reducing Papoose's 20 years of personal and professional sacrifice to an absolute $0 buyout clause. This hyper-sanitized boardroom maneuver has completely alienated Papoose from the room where the true checks are signed, leaving the ultimate, ride-or-die partner standing entirely on the outside of the empire he spent his youth protecting. The immediate cultural fallout across social platforms has transitioned from baseline shock into a state of profound, widespread outrage, primarily because the public is witnessing the systematic dismantling of hip-hop's ultimate blueprint for real unconditional loyalty. When Remy Ma was facing her highly publicized 6-year federal prison sentence back in 2008, the music industry treated her brand like a radioactive asset. Major record labels scrubbed her name from active promotional rosters. Corporate business associates completely stopped answering her phone calls, and her active streams of income evaporated overnight. Papoose did not merely wait for her release like a passive partner. He fundamentally paused his own rising creative rap career, legally married her inside a literal courtroom right before she was transported to a federal facility, and spent over half a decade transforming his public identity into a tireless human billboard for her brand. Throughout that grueling incarceration period, Papoose acted as her chief executive officer, legal shield, and cultural guardian. He single-handedly managed her name through restricted prison phone calls, aggressively fought predatory executives who attempted to illegally liquidate her back catalog, and invested hundreds of thousands of dollars of his independent mixtape revenue into her legal appeals, public relations campaigns, and prison commissary accounts. He ensured that when she finally walked through those prison gates, she wasn't a forgotten relic of the early 2000s, but a highly relevant, deeply respected hip-hop queen capable of immediately stepping into a lucrative starring role on Love and Hip Hop. Seeing a man who sacrificed his own prime artistic years get legally castrated from the business side of her life for a corporate check has sent a wave of genuine cynicism through the culture, forcing everyday fans to conclude that authentic love is a complete myth within the modern entertainment industry. This deep sense of cultural betrayal has triggered an immediate, highly volatile backlash across TikTok and X, heavily targeting Remy Ma's active corporate alignments and new mainstream ventures. Thousands of dedicated consumers have flooded the comment sections of her beauty brand partnerships and upcoming television projects, openly threatening a total consumer boycott if the contract rumors are verified as absolute fact. People are uploading lengthy analytical essays detailing the flagrant ingratitude of prioritizing corporate mobility over familial foundations. The prevailing public narrative has completely slipped past her public relations team's control, transforming Remy from a celebrated, self-made pioneer into a chilling corporate cautionary tale about the cold realities of mainstream assimilation. Yet, as the internet prepared to permanently cancel her brand, a messy insider counter-narrative began circulating among veteran hip-hop commentators, suggesting that the reality of this boardroom drama is infinitely more complex than a simple case of spousal abandonment. A segment of analytical industry observers argue that the contract restructuring might actually be a desperate, highly calculated mutual decision engineered to protect the household's macro-financial health rather than a malicious betrayal. If mainstream gatekeepers are actively refusing to greenlight a $20 million distribution deal while an independent street figure is listed as the chief executive officer, the smartest mathematical play for the family asset pool is for Papoose to legally step down from the paperwork while still quietly reaping the financial rewards behind closed, unredacted doors. However, the coordinated family strategy theory completely collapses the moment one analyzes the intense, highly hostile energy emanating from their respective camps over the last several months. Long before 50 Cent decided to pull the pin on his digital grenade, observant fans noticed that the constant stream of supportive couple photos and joint red carpet appearances had completely dried up. Remy Ma has been systematically attending elite international fashion weeks, high-end corporate galas, and major televised award shows entirely solo, exuding the precise energy of a single, unattached mogul who answers to no one but her board of directors. Conversely, Papoose has been spotted almost exclusively at low-key community events, independent local battle rap tournaments, and youth sports programs, looking completely detached from the high-glitz, corporate-shielded lifestyle his wife has suddenly immersed herself in. The timeline of their professional movements reveals that the structural foundation of their legendary partnership was fractured long before the legal paperwork was leaked to the public. The structural cracks in their empire grew impossible to ignore when Papoose quietly made a definitive, silent update to his digital infrastructure, scrubbing the title of head of management straight out of his official social media biographies just days before the contract screenshots went viral. This subtle administrative retreat acted as a massive red flag for digital detectives, proving that the professional divorce had already been legally finalized behind closed doors. The corporate and personal partnership had clearly devolved into a sterile, highly restricted promotional business arrangement where they no longer even acknowledged or tagged one another in their respective digital footprints. What makes this situation so critical for Remy Ma's brand identity is that blatant ingratitude is the one cultural sin that urban audiences refuse to tolerate. The streets can rationalize financial fraud, they can look past messy personal lives, and they can tolerate complex industry politics. But watching a fiercely loyal partner get systematically erased from the very house he helped build has ignited a massive, deep-seated consumer backlash that threatens her entire commercial future. The strategic mechanics of how 50 Cent managed to obtain these highly confidential, proprietary corporate documents in the first place adds an incredibly sinister layer to the unfolding drama. A mogul of 50 Cent's stature does not sit around his executive headquarters guessing passwords to secure cloud servers. Someone deep within the executive offices or the legal pipeline deliberately handed him that loaded weapon, knowing exactly how chaotic his public platform would be. The street commentary immediately pivoted to the historic, deep-rooted alliances within New York hip-hop, with analysts speculating that 50 Cent is operating as a heat-seeking missile on behalf of a hidden industry power player who wanted to completely humiliate Papoose on a global scale. There is a widespread, credible theory that a major distribution powerhouse wanted Remy Ma entirely isolated from her husband's protective, eagle-eyed management style, so they intentionally leaked the contract to 50 Cent to spark enough public chaos to cause the entire marriage to buckle under the weight of intense scrutiny. The absolute silence coming from both camps during this entire digital meltdown has been deafening, acting as a loud, ringing public confession. Typically, when a fraudulent rumor or a photoshopped legal document circulates through the blogosphere, a high-priced crisis management firm or a corporate publicist issues an immediate, threatening cease-and-desist letter to protect the bags and reassure skittish corporate sponsors. Instead, the entire internal management apparatus went completely dark, disabling comment sections and ignoring direct press inquiries from major entertainment outlets. This total lack of a unified, defensive front has allowed the narrative to permanently harden into accepted fact across the cultural timeline, forcing the hip-hop community to realize that the contract leak was not the opening salvo of a brand new war, but rather the explosive, public conclusion of a hidden Cold War that has been tearing their business empire apart for months. The panic amplified tenfold the moment 50 Cent abruptly deleted the contract screenshots from his profile. The sudden takedown did not quiet the storm, it validated it, as internet archivers had already captured every single line of the fine print in high definition. Fans and legal bloggers began zooming in on the poorly redacted lines, analyzing the specific corporate typography, and matching the sterile legal jargon to the exact standard agreements utilized by one specific mainstream media conglomerate. The immediate consensus was that the frantic rush to erase the post proved the document was 100% authentic, leaving Remy Ma's crisis team completely defenseless and scrambling for a viable public relations shield. This realization shifted the discourse away from standard celebrity gossip and straight into the messy, unresolved fallout of the battle-rap street scandals that heavily fractured their personal credibility over the last 2 years. The timeline's collective jaw dropped as the conversation violently pivoted away from corporate asset shielding and straight back into the cheating allegations that rocked their household in 24-month cycles. Suddenly, Remy Ma was no longer being framed as just a cold, opportunistic corporate climber who wanted a bigger check from a record label. She was being painted as a woman whose personal, off-camera choices had created a massive security and reputational liability for her multi-million-dollar business apparatus. The prevailing theory exploding across social media suggests that this entire contract leak was actually a highly calculated, retaliatory strike originating from an insider deeply connected to her past battle rap associations. They allegedly obtained the newly restructured LLC documentation and fed it directly to G-Unit's captain to expose how Papoose had been stripped of his administrative power as a direct consequence of a fundamental marital breakdown. High-level executives operating within the urban entertainment niche point out that when personal scandals turn this toxic in the public square, mainstream corporate sponsors draw a definitive, unyielding line in the sand. According to deep industry whispers, a major television network and an international beauty brand threatened to completely freeze a massive, multi-year funding deal unless Remy Ma's professional entity was entirely and legally separated from her husband's independent management company. The corporate board refused to navigate the public relations headache of a volatile, street-adjacent marriage playing out across their promotional tours and corporate activations. They forced Remy into a corner where she had to sign a clean slate, isolated contract to secure her financial longevity. The ultimate consequence of that executive choice meant signing a document that completely castrated Papoose from the business side of her life, leaving him with absolutely zero legal claim to any of the music, television revenue, or intellectual property she creates moving forward. By the time the news cycle reached its peak, public perception had completely flipped from anger toward Remy Ma to an overwhelming sense of profound pity and vindication for Papoose. The comment sections transformed into a massive cultural judgment zone, with veteran commentators arguing that Papoose's total, unshakable silence during all the past street drama was not a sign of emotional weakness or denial at all. It was actually the quiet, strategic movement of a man who was securing his legal exit strategy, ensuring he could walk away with his dignity and his independent reputation entirely intact when the business contract inevitably blew up in the public eye. The tension has reached an absolute boiling point because the hip-hop community is now staring directly at the smoking ashes of what used to be an unbreakable legacy, waiting anxiously to see who is going to make the final, devastating move in a corporate standoff that has no heroes left. Papoose is currently moving like a man who knows exactly where every single body is buried in this industry, and his complete refusal to release a defensive public statement is terrifying every single executive involved in Remy Ma's new deal. They know that if he decides to drop his own unredacted paperwork, or sit down for an unfiltered, tell-all media interview, the resulting cultural explosion will shake the entire corporate structure to its absolute core. The street commentary is screaming that Papoose was left holding the short end of the stick after sacrificing his own prime creative years to keep another artist relevant. But he might actually be the one who holds the master key to the entire empire's absolute destruction. This underlying leverage is exactly why the tactical narrative surrounding 50 Cent's corporate intervention has reached an absolute state of finality. While the mainstream media continues to spiral over the dramatic collapse of hip-hop's most celebrated romantic union, elite industry strategists understand that the true casualty here isn't just a marriage. It is the total eradication of independent street authority within modern hip-hop's commercial matrix. By leaking the highly restrictive parameters of Remy Ma's new administrative alignment, 50 Cent didn't just expose a personal rift. He single-handedly proved that the modern entertainment industry has engineered a bulletproof mechanism to strip traditional street powerhouses of their leverage, permanently forcing them to adapt to corporate assimilation or face total financial exile. The cold, mechanical execution of this boardroom eviction is engineered to establish a permanent precedent across the entire urban entertainment ecosystem. Mainstream distribution conglomerates are no longer hiding their aggressive, systematic aversion to old-school management models that rely on personal protection and unfiltered street vows. The implementation of strict third-party restriction clauses and non-disparagement metrics represents a highly sophisticated form of corporate asset shielding, designed to completely sanitize a legacy artist's public profile for global luxury spaces and Wall Street investment metrics. For Papoose, a man who built his entire cultural identity on the rigid metrics of absolute, unconditional loyalty, the realization that 20 years of relentless sacrifice could be legally neutralized by an insulated boardroom pen represents the ultimate, chilling cautionary tale for independent creators across the culture. This harsh paradigm shift highlights the ultimate, unyielding paradox of modern hip-hop longevity. While traditional hip-hop purists continue to flood comment sections with passionate essays defending the sanctity of street loyalty and communal preservation, the elite corporate realists, who control the true financial distribution channels, are operating on a completely separate, algorithmic frequency. In their cold mathematical equations, a fiercely loyal husband-manager with deep street ties is viewed not as a historic asset, but as an volatile liability that cannot be managed by a standard human resources department. Remy Ma's executive decision to sign a document that legally castrates her partner from her financial future proves that at the absolute highest levels of global brand alignment, regular season bravado and sentimental street credibility must ultimately bow to the absolute demands of global capitalism. As the digital dust finally begins to settle over this turbulent corporate scandal, the fundamental reality of the hip-hop power dynamic remains completely unchanged. The public is no longer just consuming music or tracking standard celebrity drama. They are active witnesses to a ruthless, high-stakes psychological war of attrition where the final currency isn't gold records, street dominance, or emotional history, but the absolute, legally enforced control of public perception. Whether Papoose ultimately breaks his strategic silence to unleash his own unredacted paperwork, or Remy Ma successfully navigates her new solo corporate empire beneath her high-powered legal shield, the culture has been permanently altered by 50 Cent's Midnight Tactical Nuke. The age of the independent street power couple has officially been replaced by a raw, unpredictable corporate landscape where the absolute truth of a relationship will never outpace the devastating, empire-dismantling power of a perfectly timed internet meme.